Hello, this is Eunju Kim from Ulji University. My presentation topic is the impact of social realism, loyalty, and corrective polarization in Moodle-based online learning on college student online learning motivation. The sequence of progress is as follows. The development of information and communication technologies has led to the expansion of online learning in the educational field, in particular due to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Educational institutions around the world have compulsively introduced online courses without prior preparation for non-face-to-face classes. Such a social emergence has brought a shift in perception among teaching methods in the future. In addition to these social change, most students in the current era are digital native generations. There has been an interest in educational changes in teaching methods considering the learning motivation of learners who are familiar with online learning rather than offline learning. Such change can be handled through continuous learning, which enable the modification and the development of existing learning and experience suitable for reality. It is not easy to enhance the motivation to run that make continuous learning possible in online learning environment compared to traditional classroom educations. In online learning compared to traditional classroom learning, the degree of active participation of runners determines the effectiveness of running, and thus plans are needed to revitalize the motivation to run that encourages learners to continuously participate in course. Such plans should consider the learning environment, learning tasks, and characteristics of runners. As for the existing research on online learning motivation, most studies have focused on plans to create learning environment and tasks to revitalize online learning motivation. Examples include a design study to induce learning motivation in the online learning system, a study on psycho-emotional change and influence of learners in online learning environment, and a study on the relationship analysis between learning motivation in online learning and other independent variables. Yet, there are few studies related to plan in consideration of runners' characteristics. In particular, as for the enhancement of online learning motivation, most studies have targeted middle and high school students and lifelong learners, and few studies target college students. However, the current university education system is applying various educational methods such as project learning, action learning, problem-solving learning, and project learning in the classroom to induce the learning motivation of learners. In particular, as there has been an expansion of online learning such as MOOC and KMOOC, and flipped learning where online learning is carried out before or after learning as a mixed education method. Online learning motivation has become an important educational variable not only in traditional face-to-face classes but also in online learning. Compared to traditional face-to-face or offline learning, in online learning environments, the perception of intimacy, bond understanding, and relationships through interaction with between learners can influence learning. In other words, it is necessary to have an emotional bond with relational characteristic that is formed through mutual exchange between tutee or between tutors and tutee in online environments. In this regard, social presence refers to the degree of perceiving the level of intimacy or bonding, understanding each other and relationship through interactions with between learners in a communication environment. It is composed of an emotional bond, often communication, mutual support and concentration, and the feeling of communities. It was confirmed that social presence is a major predictive factor in online learning through a study on the relationship between the role of a tutor who used the concepts of social presence in online discussion learning and the following learning outcome. In addition, Loewe, who researched social presence as an independent variable, published a study showing that in the online learning environment, when social presence was higher, tutee dropped out of learning less frequently. In addition, in the team-based learning environment using flipped learning presence had a high influence on learning motivation. In an online communication environment with high anonymity, an individual perceives the identity of the online group that they belong to as own identity. In addition, they show the tendency of following the behavior patterns of the groups. These characteristics can trigger group polarization in online learning. Group polarization is a significant predictive factor for learning motivation. There are cases in which individuals make more biased decisions in social media or online environment than in personal circumstances. Online debate learning can enhance learning motivation as learners can trigger positive group polarization. Additionally, there are studies on how learners accept and respond to information in terms of group polarization. Representative theories supporting group polarization include the persuasive argument theory and the social comparison theory. In terms of persuasive argument theory, learners are polarized by accepting persuasive argument of others during debate running within a group. During the learning, learners make a correction of their opinion after comparing their to others with a stronger argument, thereby affecting their learning motivation. On the other hand, in terms of social comparison theory, polarization occurs because learners want to know that they are socially liked in comparison with others while showing it off. As such, group polarization can be considered a predictive factor with an influence on learners' motivation to run in an online learning environment. Furthermore, as a result of the analysis on the structural relationship between learners' loyalty and learning motivation in online learning, it was confirmed that there was a significant positive correlation between learners' learning motivation and online learning loyalty. In online learning, loyalty refers to favorable behavior by continuously using education service. In other words, it refers to the learner's attitude and intention toward the service. Their personal attitude, belief, and will, including in other words, refer to the learner's attitude and intention towards the service, their personal attitude, belief, and will, including their intention to continuously attend classes or a recommendation of classes to peers. As such, it is predicted that learning participation activities in online learning environment will become no different from those in offline learning environment. It is more important for learners to participate in online learning with loyalty rather than focusing on the distinction between the physical environment online and offline. Therefore, with an independent variable that can affect online learning motivation, this study is designed to analyze the impact of social presence and group polarization online learning motivation in Moodle-based online learning. This has been conducted in line with the recent change in the online learning educational environment. The target of this study was analyzed using 2020 survey data from a four-year university in Gyeonggi-do, Korea. The survey was conducted for about a month from April 1 day to May 13, 2020. The number of subject studies is 83. To measure social presence, a tool developed by Kim was used, and the sub-factors mutual support and concentration consisted of a total of 50 questions. The overall item consistency of the questionnaire items was alpha is 0.903, indicate good reality as for the loyalty measurement tool. Questionnaire item news in the study of Kang was used. This tool consists of three questions about continuous participation, organizational behavior, and word of mouth behavior. The overall inter-item consistency of the item was alpha is 9 0.911, indicating good reliability. A measurement tool for group polarization was employed, which was first developed by Na and Cha, and then was confirmed for its validity by Sim. The sub-factor for group polarization consists of a total of 20 questions regarding out-group exclusion confirming behavior, intergroup synchronization, and perceptual bias. The overall inter-item consistency of the questionnaire item was alpha is 0.908. Indicating good reliability. The value of the variables for each question were based on the 5-point Likert scale. Very low is 1 point, low is 2 point, normal is 3 point, high is 4 point, and very high is 5 points. The FoSW statistic 18.0 programs was used to analyze the data collected to explore the research questions. Frequency and percentage analysis were conducted to examine the subject general characteristic, and the Chromebook alpha coefficient were calculated to determine the international fit on the research tool. A descriptive statistic analysis was conducted to examine the mean and standard deviation of online learning motivation, social presence, loyalty, and group polarization. In addition, a multiple regression analysis was performed to identify which were variable among the subfactors of social presence, loyalty, and group polarization have the greatest influence on online learning motivation, and to identify the most appropriate model to explain online learning motivation. A stepwise method was used to select variable to be included in the most appropriate regression model. This method is the most commonly used when adding variable one by one. The significance of each existing variable in the model is tested. If it is not significant, it is removed from the model. In addition to increase the predictive power of the multiple regression equation, there should be high correlation between dependent variables and each independent variables, as well as low correlation between independent variables. In other words, tolerance and variance inflation factor, VIF, where it calculates to identify multi-cardinally between independent variables. When both tolerance and VIF are close to 1, it is judged that there is no multi-cardinality if VIF is more than 10. Multi-cardinality is strongly suggested. The maximum tolerance limit was 0.994 and the VIF was 6.106, indicating that the correlation between independent variables was not high enough to cause problems. In other words, both tolerance and VIF met the basic assumptions for the multiple regression analysis. As shown in table S4, result of the descriptive statistic of online learning motivation, social presence, loyalty, and group polarization, the average of mutual support and concentration shows the highest value of 4.21. Among subfactor of social presence, the average of intergroup synchronization showed the highest value of 2.86. Among subfactor of group polarization, the average of loyalty is 4.05, and that of online learning motivation is 4.12. The following are the results of statistical significance testing for the model that measure online learning motivation of college students with independent variable of social presence, loyalty, and group polarization. Social presence subfactor and group polarization subfactor were excluded due to non-significance. In the model with the other social presence subfactor and the other group polarization subfactors, were significant, with the F statistic being 49.51. And the probability of significance as 0.000. The independent variable included in the model demonstrated significance with online learning motivation with the significance level of 0.05. 71% of the total change in online learning motivation is related to the independent variable contained in the model. The contribution of each independent variable to the dependent variable was tested at the significance level of 0.05 to determine statistical significance. The independent variable with significantly influence online learning motivation of royalty T is 6.98. Intergroup synchronization T is minus 6.01. Perceptual bias and mutual support and concentration. According to the standardization coefficient, the variable of intergroup synchronization, perceptual bias, loyalty, and mutual support and concentration influenced online learning motivation in this particular order. The corresponding regression equation is as follows. Therefore, it was found that loyalty, perceptual bias, and mutual support and concentration had a positive impact on the motivation to run online, whereas the intergroup synchronization had a negative impact on the motivation to run online. In other words, the enhancement of online learning motivation requires higher loyalty. The improvement of perceptual bias and mutual support and concentration without triggering intergroup synchronization in online learning environment. This study analyzed the impact of social presence and group polarization on online learning motivation in Moodle-based online learning format for college students. As a result, it was found that loyalty, perceptual bias, and mutual support and concentration had a positive impact on online learning motivation, while intergroup synchronization had a negative impact on motivation. In conclusion, it was found that in a Moodle-based online learning format, loyalty, multiple support, and concentration and perceptual bias had a positive influence on college student motivation to run. Yet it was found that intergroup synchronization showed a negative influence. Therefore, the research results have drawn the following implication. First, in online learning environment, loyalty was found to be a predictive factor to encourage the motivation to run for college students. Second, in online learning, mutual support and concentration was found to be a predictive variable which encourages the motivation to run for college students. Third, perceptual bias group polarization was found to be predictive variable including the motivation to run for college students in an online learning environment. Fourth, intergroup synchronization of group polarization was found to be a predictive variable that higher the motivation to run for college students in an online learning environment. As such, with the predictive variable that influence the motivation to run for college students in a Moodle-based online learning environment, this study has great implication for education in the post-coronavirus era. Nevertheless, there are limitations. First, this study is only based on one university in which the data was collected. Therefore, it is necessary to conduct research that can represent the characteristics of the population using large-scale data in subsequent studies. Second, in addition to the independent variables set in this study, it is necessary to explore other various independent variables that may affect learners' motivation to run in an online learning environment and to analyze the influence and structural relationship between these variables. The educational field has experienced numerous changes since the COVID-19 pandemic. Through follow-up study, it should be possible to prevent the decline in education quality in an online learning environment. Please refer to the following for reference. Thank you for your attention to the end.